Talking Tottenham, a fantasyfocus.com production.
Welcome, everyone, to episode 149 of Talking Tottenham. Bucky, joined as always by Danny, Pool Boy Shakes. Sorry for the slight delay there, folks out there that are viewing us live here on YouTube. You can follow us on Twitter at TTPodCoys. Follow us on YouTube at Talking Tottenham Pod. Danny Shakes coming to you live here straight from the second pool deck. It was the second, not the third pool, correct?
Yeah, second pool house next to the second pool. I might have overflowed my pool, Bucks. Cannot confirm nor deny this. And this is like a serial blunder by me. I have overflowed the pool probably 4 times since moving to this house. And that was like 2 years ago. So I'm averaging once every 6 months or so, I overflow the pool. I just forget. I just move on to the next thing. I can blame the children. Like they tied me up. And next thing you know, I'm going for a walk and just kind of blissfully let the pool just overflow while we're at the park. But it's on me, man. I need to set a timer or something.
It's okay, man. You know, and you had me going for a second saying that your infant children, toddler and infant children tied you up, basically restricting you from being able to properly pull the hose out of the pool. And I say hose, but it's not a hose at all. It's actually a filtration mechanism that pumps water straight in from the Atlantic Ocean into the pool. It's quite a mechanism. Aqueducts are involved, but that's neither here nor there. Talk about overflowing the pool. Spurs kind of overflowed the Europa pool a little bit. Got a little too heavy on the old container there, and things overflowed and shit went abyss. But we got to talk about Villa first. Let's start with a high note. Let's get into the low stuff. We're going to answer a bunch of listener questions, folks. As always, if you have a question, you're watching live, feel free to post it. We will comment on it. We will have fun with you here live on YouTube. But we have a plethora of questions. I think I counted 8 or 9, 10, maybe even Shakes. So we're going to use the majority of this show today to break down those listener questions because, listen, you're the ones we do it for. You're the ones that give a damn, and you're the ones that love Tangies just as much as we do. So let's hop into Villa here. First off, we're going to start with the lineup, Shakes. We shook it up. Ali Gold, of course, always on top of it, came out pre-match about 3 hours beforehand saying this should look like a vastly different team, and it did. Give me your thoughts on that opening 11 there.
Yeah, Jose went back to a 4-4-2, and really it was just all the player changes that you saw specifically on the back line. You saw Rodin come in and start as a center back next to Dave, and then you saw Tang, our boy, the sack, Tanganga, come on in. And basically, I think maybe put it's shots fired by Tanganga that he's here to maybe try to take the starting right back role, I would say, Bucks. I mean, I don't know what this means about Doherty not even being listed out there. And then you also saw Lo Celso come in on the right side. That meant Bale was back on the bench. And then basically you saw our boy Steely Vinn as the other second striker. And I didn't know how that was going to look. I think it was disjointed. It was quite the lineup change. It was like heads are going to roll, and the team was uninspired. We'll go to Hugo's comments shortly. And this is Jose just reacting to it. Not saying it 100% seemed like he pushed all the right buttons, but it worked, right? Spurs go on the road, win 2-0 in a game that didn't feature Jack Grealish, Aston Villa's best player, but 3 points on the road is 3 points on the road against Aston Villa, who's 10th currently in the table.
Yeah, you mentioned heads will roll. That just always sparks that Yaz remix. Heads will roll. One of my favorite songs, to be honest with you. When I want to get hyped, if I'm going to take like a brisk 3 mile per hour run /jog/fart leg, as my parents would call it when I was growing up, the way I run is like a fart leg. It's a German term, apparently. I'm not very keen on it, but
I'm not familiar with it.
Heads will roll. And let's start with Tanganga. I think that's really the jumping off point.
Of course, that's what you want.
Well, naturally. That's my guy, man.
Rodin, Lo Celso, Vin. No, we got to start with Tanganga. Absolutely.
I think you watch the first 20 minutes of that match. He had 2 aerial clearances in the box that he had to step out of position and just basically wreak havoc in that box to make sure that he was in good position, headed the ball out effectively, not just like, I don't know, just a pissy little header. No, he was heading that shit like 15 miles in the air because that's what the authority. Boom. and he had a nice a clearance with his foot around the 20-minute mark or the 21st minute. Overall, I was really impressed with him. But one thing I did notice about him, though, and I don't know if it was a tactics thing from Jose. Yeah, Nate Keller dropped the Tangangis on him. Tangangis. Yes. The fighting Tangangis out there. He was flowing it a little bit in towards the center. It feels like he's more comfortable in the center than he is out on that right flank. Whether or not that was a tactic is yet to be seen. I thought he looked comfortable running up the right flank on the attack. He's not all put together there. There's a lot to learn, but that only comes with more time spent with his attacking players and understanding the system. He's been a little bit affected by injuries here and there. But however, I kind of like him in the center just because of his positioning. He's tenacious. And what you saw throughout the game, second half, he had that fantastic leap in to block what could have been a goal there through a lot of traffic where, I hate to say it, but his older brother, Musa Sissoko, the Hog, you got the Hog in the sack. The Hog really just was kind of lackadaisical, even though he's brought in. And I thought that Tanganga was just flat bang out our best defender of the day. And he stood out watching it over again, too.
He started out just a tad nervy, but as he grew into it, I mean, I don't know who watches that and thinks like, oh, Doherty and Serge are much better defensively. I know right now he needs to figure out how much trust do I have as far as going forward? What's my, he's playing on the right side with Lo Celso. So Lo Celso probably actually covered a little bit more for him because Lo Celso does have midfielder ingrained in him from last season, maybe a little bit. He's not, as attacking, as if it was like Sonny out there or Bale out there. So it will be interested to see how Jose rated Tanganga's performance, because if it's coming from a defensive side of the ball, I just think he has to believe that's my best right back defender. I don't know who's making this claim that Serge marks better, gets back better, Doherty has more energy, in better positional awareness and doesn't make mistakes. I just think, if you're seeing this already from Tanganga, granted it's against Aston Villa minus their best player, I just think I'd rather it, just like you're going to try to give all these center backs goes, Bucks, like, okay, let's try Dave with Toby. Let's try Roden with Dave. Let's do Dyer again for the 19th time and watch that fail and blow up in our faces. It's like, well, let's just give Tanganga a run too, since everyone's out on Doherty, unfortunately. And Serge, he was ill today, but he's had some injury issues, and it's seemingly like Spurs aren't going to be playing midweek all the time anymore now. We'll talk about that. But, I think seeing a rotation of Tanganga and Serge might be in the future for these final 10 matches.
I think that has to be the rotation there. I think Tanganga at this point, everything that he's shown us, I think he had one poor performance early on in the season. I want to say it was Chelsea in the FA Cup, or no, Carabao. He didn't look too sharp against Chelsea in the Carabao, but Chelsea can make any right back look bad on their day. I just think he's a difference maker out there. The positioning is what stands out. I think that stands out first and foremost for me. And if he can improve on all the other attributes that a right back needs, then maybe there's a future there for him. But after seeing Joe Roden, which is the transition point here, I want to see Roden on the left, Tanganga on the right, in the center. I think building blocks for the future, that might be a good route.
You're too far ahead of yourself.
I don't think we'll
never see a center back pairing with like two guys under 24. I would say the other thing that stands out with Tanganga is his recovery skills compared to Doherty and Serge, who either will be out of position or off the pace. You saw it in like the 90th minute with Tanganga making that block. He was able to go scramble drill, get in front of the ball, and probably make a block that the other two right backs would not. So I think his recovery skills, in addition to his aerial presence, make him just more defensively solid than the other two guys. I understand it's a debate going forward, but if you're going to have Reggie healthy, hopefully shooting up the left side, I understand that's where more of the offense will come from on the left side versus Tanganga on the right.
Swinging gate. Give me that swinging gate.
You love that swinging gate, bro.
I really do. But Tanganga makes that all work.
Let's take it to Roden, though, you said.
Yeah.
Were you surprised Roden first was paired with Dave? Because we had seen Roden paired with Dave, I think, in some other League Cup match, or I can't remember if it was Carabao now, or maybe it was like one of our 50 Europa qualifying matches. But I thought I'd see Roden with Toby. It sounded like he was ill too, maybe. And then also, I thought we'd see Roden with Dyer, which had been a pairing that we'd seen actually in EPL ball. So to put him on the left side, which he was comfortable playing, even though he's right-footed, he played left side at Swansea, right? That was interesting to me, and it did feel like the team was far more athletic, right? Is that by far Spurs' most athletic center back pairing?
Definitely.
So if you're worrying about pace, if you want them pinching up and trying to win the ball quickly, and then I don't know aerially, like how much you attribute that to athleticism versus just positioning, but definitely felt like the most athletic backfield Spurs could put out there with Reggie, or backline, I should say, with Reggie, Tanganga, Roden, and Sanchez.
I'll
by
start
far
here.
the most athletes.
Do you feel comfortable with Roden starting with any pairing through what you've seen through 5, maybe 6 matches this year?
Well, it's kind of a what do you got to lose type situation, right?
Yeah. That's what I was getting at. That's what I was getting at. Is more, we've seen the failings of the more senior center backs on the squad, and we've seen all sorts of different pairings throughout the year. None of it. It's sad to say it, because in the league, yes, has the team surrendered the 4th least amount of goals or something like that. Like, we are well in the top 20% in terms of the defense. The issue I have is those timely goals, those hustle goals where the other team simply wants it more, and you don't have the players with the urgency. Jerry points it out here, the urgency with his recovery as far as Tanganga. I saw the same thing with Joe Roden, was the urgency to get back in the right position when the other team had the ball, threatening at least on the very outside of the box or coming inside of it. And Roden had 2 or 3 very good deflections on solid shots, and he was in the right position. And it was a cluster mess all around us. It didn't look, it wasn't cohesive, but it was effective because of the level of effort. And I think there's something to be said for that when you do let up these disappointing goals. And we've seen it time and time again from Toby, aerially this year mostly. I mean, he's just been getting beat hand over fist with the aerial balls through corners, free kicks, what have you. It just seems like Toby's not getting there. I think Roden, Tanganga bring a different level of urgency. And yeah, Nate Keller, you can't teach effort. And that is the one thing that Jose, I'll give him credit, pointed out, is I want guys that really want to go out there and die for the badge and give everything they got, because they know any match that they play in might be the last one they play in for Spurs. And I see that from these young kids. And Joe Roden's not that young. Tanganga is not that young in footballing years, but in terms of playing at this level, extremely young. So we need to get them more rotational, and I think they're here to stay. They should be.
Yeah, he's 23 right now. Spurs are 3rd with 30 goals allowed, but that's, gosh, if you follow that's like one of those textbook. If you follow the squad, you just know there are defensive lapses, specifically by the center back pairing, basically in any crucial match. And also that goals against number is helped by Jose, who at times would just throw 5 midfielders in there and just say, fuck the offense.
Yeah.
So, you gotta look at it through that lens. I think I'm for just giving Roden a run. Why not? I mean, you've seen, I don't know what we need to do as far as Dyer. I mean, now that there's no more Europa ball, I don't see him starting again unless someone's injured, because if it's just Roden got me a clean sheet with Dave, and I think Toby is better than Dyer and can pair with Dave and has done that probably the most. I would imagine that's the most common pairing. And then maybe there's still this Toby Roden pairing to take a look at. I mean, Dyer's just now off the depth chart, and I think that's just our rotation bucks. And then I just think Jose is hell-bent, even though you want your boy Tanganga as a center back, he's hell-bent at keeping him at right back. And whether that just turns into a rotation with Serge just to see the end of the season out, I think that's probably what you got. And then on the left side, it's still going to be a rotation between Reggie and Ben, and Reggie will be first team when healthy. So maybe there is a little bit more fine, hey, it only took Spurs like 40 games across all comps to say, well, I guess after injury and just terrible play, this is what we got. But here we are. Here we are with the back line.
Yeah. That's like you start a race and you lose your engine halfway through. Yeah. And all of a sudden you create an engine that actually operates off water. Have you ever seen one of those cars? You just manufacture it midway through the race, and you just barely get over the finish line, but you finish the race. And by finish the race, I mean finish in top 4. Then if we're operating with a water-based vehicle, in terms of the engine power, the fuel, if you will. Give them more water. Give them more bang energies. They're going to need it to beat Man
Going
City.
hydro.
Yeah, we're going pure hydro on them.
My lease is up in like 8 months. Should I get an electric vehicle? Should I go Tesla?
No.
I agree. Okay.
I don't trust robot cars. I will die on this hill. I trust supporting.
You don't trust any AI or robots. You've definitely made that statement multiple times on this podcast.
I can't stand them. Skynet.
You're a man of principle.
What happens when Skynet takes over your Tesla? You're going 70 down
that's a concern.
I-95. Yeah,
that's a concern.
It's my only concern. It's my concern for my fellow brethren. You know, electric cars, I can deal with an electric car. I'm all about protecting the environment and being more green conscious. But you know, as I drive my 1998 H2.
Get 8 miles to the gallon on that sucker. Yeah.
It's cranking up the atmosphere. Yeah, I get at least 0.02% of the atmosphere knocked off per day. And I drive 2 miles a day. So it's one of those things. But I will say, I think part of why Jose likes Tanganga on the right side is because he will tuck in a bit more than a guy like Serge will, and he'll have more effort and more defensive sound nature once a team does compact it closer in towards the box. I think that's a big uplift for what we previously had out there. Let's just keep hammering Rodon and Tanganga and see what happens, because we would all be let down with any loss. I would rather see us going down with something that hasn't produced those losses than seeing us go down in just a totally depressing situation like we've seen too many times this year with the same amount of people or the same 3 people that have been involved in that rotation. Sanchez is a guy that frustrates me. You know that. I will be the first to say I can't stand the way that he gets rid of the ball out of the box. I think there's not nearly enough just blasting from him. There's a lot of just, hey, I'll give the ball 30 yards out to the defense, and his headers aren't as crisp as a guy like Tanganga or Rodon for that matter, from what I saw in just one match. But he's got to get better at those elements, and I think he can. It's just, when does he put it all together?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're just going to – Levy will die on the Sanchez hill. It sounds like he's not going to be transferred out, and just he's under, team care for the next how many ever years he wants it to be. So I think Dave is just going to be always in the plans. I think Rodon will be in the plans. Toby, he's going to hopefully shepherd them through this as like the old man that's long in the tooth, but signed his new contract. So he's still going to be with us for a while and get his spot starts. And then the question will just be what happens to Dyer? Is he just transferred out and then you just try to go new somewhere else? Spurs just made that signing, but Dyer's like in the quote unquote prime of his career, and it doesn't seem like he's anywhere close on the depth chart anymore. So do you flip an asset, even if it's a depreciating asset? We'll probably have that to talk about over summer, Bucks.
It just depends, though, if Dyer can make an impact with England, whether or not I think his future. I don't think he
starts for England.
But my point is, well, that's my point, is if he does make that impact, I think he has an opportunity to give us some value there as far as a transfer would be concerned in the Premier League. So that's one thing that I actually look forward to watching with the Euros, is seeing whether or not Dyer has a key role to play. I mean, he did score a pretty sweet free kick. Or no, Trippier scored the free kick.
Yeah, Trippier scored the free kick.
The PK there in the World Cup.
He did.
Yeah.
I want to talk about Vin.
Carlos Vinicius. I think that's a good transition point there.
Thank you.
From Eric Dyer to Steely Vin.
Yeah.
You've always been
kind of music related.
You've always been the smoothest guy now.
From the project to Steely Vin.
Yep.
Do you think he did enough to warrant another start again for Jose?
Yeah, I do.
Really?
I think he's rough around the edges. He really is. The first touch is lacking, but he gives a shit. And I want guys out there that are going to go balls to the wall. And effort was never a concern with his performance there on Sunday. So I'm all for getting another run. I think he offers us something. What do we always say, especially without Sonny in the mix now? And who knows how long this might extend. Hopefully it'll be over by the time Newcastle comes around. He's had the rest from the internationals. But if that isn't the case, what we saw, you said 4-4-2. I saw more of like a 4-2, 4-1-4-1 type of situation there is really what it boiled down to for me. I saw Højbjerg tracking back quite a bit, and then I saw the 4 midfield piece with Kane kind of dropping in. I liked what I saw with Vin. I thought he offered us a little bit different. His hold up play ain't that good. That's the one concern I have with him at the top, but effort was there, and guess what? He was at the right place at the right time, thanks to the best player on the pitch, and that was Lucas Moura. Who the hell would have saw that coming? But your thoughts on Vin? I'm curious.
I thought he played well. Spurs, I thought as a whole, kind of sucked the first 15, 20 minutes of the match. They grew into the game a little bit, and it came from, like you said, Lucas Moura, best player on the pitch for Spurs, winning the ball back and then getting it to Kane to Lucas to set up Vin, even though Lo Celso would have been in there for the tap in as well. I think
he let him have it.
He did. Yeah.
He's a guy who hadn't scored many Premier League goals, and he goes out there. He's like,
Vin, you get your first one. You can get your first one. Do the whole little arm thing you do where you fold him up. And
did you see how pumped he was? I thought he broke his hand.
He like punched the goalpost.
Yeah. I like that. I want more broken hands on goal. You don't need hands to play football. You don't need them. It's the name of the game is football.
Bucks, we have a buddy, we won't name him on this, in college, where he broke his hand by punching the goalpost in an intramural soccer match, and it worked out for him because he was flunking classes, so he was able to take a medical leave for that semester, and everything was voided. It ended up being the smartest thing he ever did. Crazy, right?
By that.
So you don't know that story?
No.
Of our one buddy?
No, yeah. I've not heard
that.
I
can't really name on here.
I can't imagine the pain that goes involved with punching and breaking your hand. But how does breaking a hand get you like a
He lit in a sitter though, like in his, it was a bad goal he lit in.
Oh,
your boy was playing right midfield at the time.
Oh, no wonder you let the goals.
Yeah, so obviously we got beat down the left flank, their left flank, and then cross and just game over.
You could have used Tanganga solidifying the center of the box there, buddy.
Not a wingback, come on. But intramural soccer, though, breaks his hand.
Yeah.
Took it a little too seriously. If only he took his classes that serious.
Ian says is so glad he finally got one in the league. So am I.
He's glad going back, and the way I look at it for him, if you're going to kind of be a Vin fan going forward, like what's he do after this stint with Spurs is once he goes back, he'll probably get transferred out again, and then hopefully that will be his starting role. Does that mean it's English Premier League ball because he's actually cutting his teeth over here, or maybe he goes to the championship side that comes up into EPL? We'll be able to hopefully root for Vin as long as he's not playing Spurs, because the buyout's just too much money, and Spurs aren't going to do that on a secondary striker, backup striker. But he does seem like he's got that raw talent where he is around the net and he gets some goals. Like it happens more in Europa than it does in EPL, but it felt like earned in a way. With that said, Bucks, when Sonny comes back healthy, I just think he's not replacing anyone else, and Son's going to stay in the top of the lineup, and then I think Lo Celso will be there to stay, or at the very least him, then Bale. And even Steve, I thought, kind of looked good when he came in for his final 30 minutes of this match. So it's a cool cameo for Vin, I guess, is what I'm getting at. I just don't think it's going to be quite long lived for Spurs. And now that we've crashed out of Europa, maybe he'll come in a substitution situation and when Spurs need a goal, and we'll feel better about it because we got someone that's coming in and not like Janssen or something like that.
Don't talk shit about Vinny. Don't talk shit about the other Vinny now.
Me. But I'm proud of Vin, I guess is where I'm going with it, but he's not here to stay.
I agree that I initially think that he's not going to stay here long term, but let's say he punches in 4 or 5 more goals to close out the year and he makes a big impact. What if that happens? Do you think there's a chance that with the COVID situation financially, Benfica struggling financially, do you think there's a chance that we actually pull him for, let's say, 20 million?
No, because if he scores 5 goals in his next 10 matches and has meaningful contributions like that, they'll just not exercise him at 45, but still find another suitor for 20.
Why not us for 20?
I just think they'll turn into a bidding war, and Spurs will lose on that bidding war because that's just not where they have to spend $20 million or pounds.
Whatever.
It's just not happening, Bucks.
Monies. We'll call them monies.
It's you also got Deli still on the squad, and like I said, Steve. Like it's just not gonna. It's gonna be a situation where it's gonna be a rotating backup striker when you have Harry Kane on the team. It's just what it is.
Yep.
He's going to log all the minutes, and you need some guy to come in every once in a while, and you're going to spend money elsewhere.
Briefly on Steve, he has these moments where he's faster than everybody on the pitch, but then it ends up with nothing. And that's the part that concerns me about his future is I think there's so much more there, but he's had a year now to kind of unpack that all. And the disappointment is real with me, at least, because I love Steve. Before COVID, hanging with my mom, my dad, I had to wear a mask during flu season whenever I went over there and hung out. And I wrote Steve after the Man City goal on my mask, and that was my game mask for the longest time. I still got the Steve mask. It's just I want to bust that out again. And so I've been a supporter of his since day one. It just seems like it's all for naught a lot of the time, the efforts from him. I love his tenacity on the defensive end, but I'm just not sure that he's good enough to be a consistent squad player for this team.
See, I disagree. And by the way, have we talked enough about how eerie it is that you would wear like a surgical protective mask like months before then the entire world had to wear a mask?
It was 6 weeks before that.
No, I thought it was, when was the Man City match?
It was in like January.
Yeah, that's right. It was turning. Yeah. You're buying all these Steve masks. Little did you know you were stocking up for real world. That's so fucking crazy.
Yeah,
that was like the
Twitter.
One thing you chose to do. You could have wrote Steve on your forehead or got a Steve wristband, but no, you chose mask. And here we all are.
Mask. Yeah.
Yeah.
Some might say I was the catalyst for the whole thing.
Let's not go that far. You made mask trendy before Fauci.
Obviously, we had two nice goals there. Kane with the tricky.
Well, hold on. You can't. I can't let you get away with that Steve comment.
Okay, I thought you were done with Steve.
Steve is good, if not better than Lucas. I think he can be more dynamic than Lucas. I don't know if he's got kind of like the defensive pressing prowess, whatever it is, that feistiness, that ness of Lucas. I don't know if Steve has that. He will come back though. He will like do his part defensively, just not as good as Lucas currently. But I think he could play that role. And I still think he's blinding fast. He does have those moments where he'll weave through the three guys, but then that fourth guy trips him up. He had that at the end of the half last game where he got shielded off the ball, like right in front of the net. And you're like, man, he made it this far. I just think you gotta like still put stock in Steve, and you still gotta try to build him in because he's so young still, Bucks, and the talent that he has. Whereas Lucas is getting a little bit older. So I just think you got to have Steve in this rotation. He's got to start playing meaningful minutes. So I like that he came off the bench here over Dele even.
No, I'm always glad to see Steve in the lineup. I think Steve brings pace that none other can except for Lucas.
Yeah, defense is worrying about that. Like, that's the thing. Even if like everyone's like, Steve did nothing. It's like, well, he still probably made this center back and fullback pairing like on one side, whatever, probably the left side, like more tentative and going forward. And they had to watch their back a little bit more. Maybe that opened just a little bit more space for, Ndombele or Kane to operate in the middle. Like that's a real thing. I think when Spurs put Lamela out there and you don't know what you're going to get with like the Coco experience, whether it's a Rabona goal or, 2 yellows and a red, like he's still not pressuring the defenses where they think he's going to crush them with their speed. Whereas Steve would do that.
Steve automatically is a threat every time that he steps on the pitch. There's no doubt about it. But the problem is he's a threat only because of that blinding speed. And he does have an ability to find space. I mean, the guy's good at doing that. I think visually he sees the pitch well. I think he understands placement on the pitch, where he needs to be, how to get a guy off kilter so that he can run down the wing in a different way. I think he's very good at the things that don't result in goals is my concern.
Don't you feel like Steve is the one player on the team where at least the most I feel this way? If he finished, let's say like 3 or 4 different times where he just barely missed that finish, it's like you're talking about him in a completely different light,
Definitely.
A completely different way, like how he's just, you can't keep him out of the starting 11 or he's just got to be involved in any way, shape, or form. It just feels like he's like these finishing plays, like just a couple of those away from having this like lasting impact and everyone thinking he's undroppable. Like it really feels like Steve could be that if he just had these 4 or 5 goals like through the first 20 matches of the season.
The issue becomes that you're right there. I think the Lo Celso for Steve situation might be a consideration, but you have Sonny, Kane, Lucas right now that are just balls to the wall. when they're on the pitch. So that's hard. But no, I just think there's not nearly enough goal scoring quality there. And hopefully he can build on it. You're right. He is young. I'm back on board. Steve, let's roll.
Like
I'm
it.
back with Steve.
Bring the mask back.
Men of the match for you. List them.
I had Lucas 1, Kane 2. And then I'm going to give it to maybe Tanganga at 3. Yeah.
So I'm going to go with Lucas 1, Tanganga 2, Vinny, Steely Vin at 3.
No love for Kane.
Lucas was a banshee, but we don't even need to really talk about it because it's just come to be expected. Something has just triggered in his brain. He's turned into a transformer out there. He's turned into a transformer. There are times that he's a big like mech out there. I think that's what you call a transformer, like a mech. And then sometimes he turns into just like a bumblebee speed demon Chevrolet SS.
He's just an absolute pest. And it's those times where we talk about it. He doesn't have to have his head down and thinking about it. It's like he gets the ball to Kane. Kane gets it back to him, and then he immediately centers it. It's like we're not thinking about it. Bang, bang, play. Yeah. Lucas is setting you up for a goal. And no one was more fired up for Vin's goal than Lucas. Maybe goalpost took the worst of it, and then he wanted to do his his little move where he puts his hands under his armpits.
Vin celebration.
But still, he's tough guy, Vin. But then Lucas went up and hugged him. Whole team did seem like ready to celebrate. You could tell the team had been through a little bit that week, with the dumpster fire in Croatia. Like they were ready to hug it out for Vin's goal. But Lucas was the most fired up for sure.
Lucas is just the man right now.
He's just the other thing about him is he loves everything Spurs. He loves his teammates. Loves playing whatever shit way that Jose is making him play. Basically, he's like, hey, you're a forward, but your back's to net always. You were just constantly going back and pressing, just going to be a pest, and he just does it. So he's a pro, man. He deserves every starting minute.
I think he does. He right now. Who's the first name or who's the second name on the team sheet? I think it's Lucas
behind Kane.
Yeah,
you're probably right. Well, I guess it's Kane, Hugo, and then after that, you got Lucas, Højbjerg, and that's about it. I thought Højbjerg, he looked less tired, so he played pretty well. And then I thought Ndombele had these stints where he just reminds you, yes, I'm better than everyone in the midfield, but then he just can't string it together long enough where you're pulling him out in the 80th minute, and that might be okay. It's I was thinking about him playing those full 90s and how much that maybe catch up with him in the matches after. It just might be something where I guess we're just riding Kane into the ground, fine. But you're going to pull Ndombele, and then you're going to pull one of the wingers if they're going to be working their asses off because they're just being asked to run more around the pitch. And that just might be how you have to attack your substitutions. This game, Lo Celso came out because it was his first start in months. So you want to make sure you're kind of easing him back into it. And then Reggie came out because he got stepped on and was still limping. He already tweeted or on Instagram, whatever, said he's good. So hopefully he'll take this international break that was heart and mouth moment. Yeah. So hopefully he's fine. And Spurs will be able to string a similar lineup and get Son back and it'll look even stronger.
Yeah. I hope that's the case, man. I really do.
See how we just flipped this? It's all positive now, Bucks.
Yeah. And then we go directly into the depression chamber. Hello, Linda. Zagreb. We don't even need to talk about it. Piss poor. I had a couple of questions, one from Alex Asher and then a second one. So the first one from Alex Asher was concerning whether or not I felt like I had something to do with the loss, as Alex was also one of our listeners on vacation, was unable to watch on the phone or any other means, couldn't really pay attention during the match, came back and we were dropped out of Europa. Is there something to feeling responsible for it? Meanwhile, I was at a bar in Key West watching on my laptop, guzzling down Miller Lights, and it was a foreign environment, no other Spurs fans. I couldn't yell. I couldn't run around. I feel responsible, partly. Change of environments. I should have been more sharp and focused. It's like Hugo said after the match. You have to be bought in, whether you're on the bench or on the pitch. And we're on the bench, Alex. And to be honest with you, I wasn't all there. I probably had a good 8 beers prior to kickoff at 2 p.m. Eastern time, rolling around. Just I wasn't all there. I got to be honest with you. I was furious after the match. Shakes went on a tweet rampage afterwards. Jose out. Shakes, you're a bandit. You're an absolute bandit. You were.
Wait, I'm banned?
A
I'm
bandit.
just a bandit.
You are the Twitter bandit. That's what you do.
Well, when I said don't even get on the plane?
Yeah, I mean you go hard on Twitter. I like having fun with our listeners. I like stating kind of like funny things about Spurs. Shakes just goes for your jugular. And folks out there, you need to know this about Shakes. He plays 0 games on the Twitter. If you see a tweet that seems unsettling or a little bit too cutthroat, understand that is the bandit. That is not Buck. Buck is positivity guy. Shakes is a real snake in the grass on the tweets.
So if someone tweets Santa Claus isn't real, we know who it was.
Like there's a reason why if you on Twitter search positive Spurs follow, you will not find us because Shakes just takes all my positivity and he takes a piece of paper and he just crumples it up and smashes it on the ground. That's what he does. He lives to wreak havoc on the internet. It's a real shame, Shakes, because I wish we were still in that competition, but we did not deserve to win that match. And I thought it was one of the worst performances that I've seen as a Spurs supporter. And the saddest part was watching that second half. After the first goal, you knew it was over. There was no fight. There was no drive. There was no persistence from the club to just say, screw it. We are getting that goal come hell or high water. What do you mean?
I thought Spurs were going to score in advance, and it would just be us talking about, wow, skin of our teeth, really, really got one by and survive advance. I mean, that save that was made against first Bale when he had that quick snapshot when it was a pass in from the left side. I can't remember if it was just right from Reggie. That was a great save by their keeper. And then the rebound one where a couple minutes later, Kane had that opportunity. And if it's just like he just kicks it and slides it in more to the right, he's just not diving all the way over and making it. He was just so far over on the right side of his post, came all the way over to his left. So that's maybe in that moment, Bucks, I was just like, wow, Spurs really are going out. This is actually happening. I just kept thinking like they were just going to snap out of it because that team, with all due respect to them, they just were not good. I mean, sure, they played organized, but they were just looking to tackle you and foul you. And they had like moments of brilliance from this one guy who just happened to have a European night hat trick and knock Spurs out. I mean, just think back to the first leg when Bale and I think Vin almost scored in like the final 90 seconds of that match. It's like that changes everything. So, I mean, look, man, I was devastated. I was so pissed off that Jose let it get to that point. I think I did tweet right after, though, Bucks, that the players and even the board were just as responsible, for putting the product out on the field, not just the manager, especially when like half the players were there before Jose got there. But it does fall on Jose's shoulders. He can't just be like, players didn't come through with how I told them to play harder. I told them to play better. It just doesn't work that way. It's kind of a systemic thing that manifests itself over the course of time. And then you see it happen right in front of your eyes in like the worst moment possible. And that's what this was.
It was just a complete collision of the worst two results. Like number one, you were the one that put the players on the pitch. Number two, the players on the pitch just didn't get it done. And it's sad to see. It's sad to bow out of Europa. But I did think that Hugo, with a 7-minute and 45-second interview after the match, just how emotional was that? Alex Asher commented that was just, there were so many layers to it. I've watched that over now 2 or 3 different times. And what I took away from it is there's problems with management. There's problems with the coaching, but the players are the sole ones responsible for what's going on that pitch. And the bench players, those that are on a rotational basis, they have to buy in. And now is the time to buy in because hope is not lost. It's not like you can say the easiest path was lost by getting knocked out of Europa because, look, you would have been playing some damn good teams, a lot better teams than Zagreb, and you had to play European nights at that point. And eventually you're going to play United or you're going to play Arsenal. And then it's just, it would have gotten tougher, but hope isn't lost. And I think that Hugo actually understands that. him calling the performance a disgrace like 3 or 4 different times, he's absolutely right. It was a disgraceful performance. And I think the layers here are simply that we're a fractured club right now in terms of where we were with Poch, the highs with Poch, which weren't the highest highs, but damn, were they fun. And you have the current state of affairs, but there's still tangies out there for the picking. I think that's what he was trying to emphasize. I don't know. What did you make of his post-game comments?
I mean, he was still geeked up, amped up. This is the same Hugo that almost fought Sonny at halftime once for Sonny not tracking back enough.
Did you hear when in the middle of his interview, you heard the Zagreb players going absolutely nuts and him just grimacing like and closing his eyes for it? It was a wild scene. And then he came back with like, this was disgraceful.
Yeah. I mean, no Højbjerg, no Sonny. It's just still no excuse. But I mean, the thing that sucks when you call out teammates but then don't name them, all it does is make idiots like us speculate like who those teammates are.
No need to do that. I think,
but I'm just saying, like, everyone thinks that way. So then you're like, all right, well, who's the asshole in the club that just doesn't seem to be taking this seriously or doesn't be putting in the effort or maybe just isn't leading by example? And then you watch like the new team come out for the new lineup for Villa. And, you know, there's still some players out there that I'm like, all right, well, I guess it wasn't these guys. Like, you know, do I blame Bale? Do I blame? So it's just, I don't know how people don't think that way when the manager or the captain on the team kind of calls out, you know, individual effort versus just like the team sucked today. I don't know if I'm asking the way for, you know, Poch would always blame it like the team didn't show up and would never, ever, ever say something like that. So maybe I'm just still not used to it, Bucks, because it doesn't make you kind of want to go on this witch hunt a little bit?
No, I'm not like you. You've always been
you just wanted to keep going. Just be like, hey, all right, next time we have another loss, I'm not going to try to guess like who is behind it this time.
No, because that's the side of you. You've always had a bit of a politician side of you. You are not a politician. I want to be upfront. You are a great individual and an esteemed gentleman. And
my Spurs Twitter account would crush my political career anyway.
It already has.
it hasn't already. Has.
Yeah. They're looking at the coordinates, the IP addresses on those things, and they're seeing it sparking all over the East Coast of Florida, brother. But regardless of that, you love thinking about that stuff. For me,
I don't like thinking about it. I just feel like it's like car wreck stuff. How do you not watch? How do you not turn away?
I want to elevate everybody because there have been certain players that are used to getting more playing time that are simply being left out, right? So you have to understand that these folks all need to come together, regardless of naming players by name, regardless of speculating on our podcast that we do every week. There's no need to speculate. We don't need to know who the problems are. What we need is a team to come together and to make sure that we're throwing a barbecue at the end of the year, a great one. And hopefully Boris will open it up so that we can barbecue with our teammates. That's what I want to see. I want to see him barbecuing. I want to see him over at Sissoko's throwing an absolute banger, eating Iberico ham over at Sergio Reguilon's. I want to see the whole goddamn thing, Shakes. I want them to come together. I think it was a good speech by Hugo. I think that the way he kept staring into that camera, making certain points, it was critical and it was needed. And we saw the end result. It sucks to get banged out of Europa. That's never fun. But folks, we got to jump into our listener questions here because there's still hope. And as I said,
we're just going to leave Europa like this after 14 matches or whatever it was, Bucks.
What's
going
that?
To countries I've never heard of.
Listen,
and then it just feels like it was all for naught. Like, just think how many more points Spurs would have in the table if just Europa didn't exist instead of bowing out in like whatever round this was.
Shakes.
So, by the way, still tangies for the picking. By far the name of this episode, right?
Yeah, there's still tangies for the picking. That's how we do it here, Jerry. Yeah.
I mean, do we need to put together like a Europa montage?
You got Ian.
Of like,
I'd vote for you, Shakes. Just no way I'm moving to Florida again. Come on down, Ian. Things are fine.
Well, I got one vote. I got one.
Yeah. Thank you, Jerry. I do try to make sure that all fans are floating.
No, I appreciate your optimism too. And I'm sure Hugo was trying to get the team fired up, the fan base fired up, and just trying to make it seem like all is not okay. We recognize it, and we're going to do better, and you're going to see us do better in the next few matches that we have here together. But it just seems so too little too late. It's like, we'll recognize this shit. Everyone's kind of talked about how the team has been, just iffy since December, Bucks. It's not like something new, like watching the style of play not work out for them, watch the team not come out motivated, watch the manager not seem to push the right buttons or set the right lineups, and then bitch about it later in the presser to make it seem like it's not his fault. So it's just like when it all manifests itself, it's like a rah-rah speech shouldn't just fix that. So for that reason, I'm still Jose out, still carrying that card. I know it can't happen until the summer, if it did at all. And I'm starting to think more Levy would look for a reason to keep Jose versus get rid of Jose, in the sense that if Spurs do finish okay in this table, like if they finish top 6 and then look okay in the Carabao Bang Energy final, I don't know if that gets rid of Jose. I really don't. It's almost like he needs something to really go drastically wrong on top of Europa, even though to me that was the drastically wrong thing that already went, that went wrong, in order to get rid of him. So
Yeah, no, that's
I think just now I'm trying to make peace with the fact that this man might be back in my life still for another year or two. Even though I completely get to it's not all his fault. Like,
Shakes, you're dragging my vibes down.
I didn't get a chance to bitch about Europa. And now it's like you kind of basically gave a rah-rah speech how the team's going to be better, and Hugo's in the right.
No,
and now it's like we're just leaving it. We're not burying this. We are burying this.
I didn't say that, Shakes. All I said was he doesn't need to name names. What he needs to do is galvanize all the individuals on that club to come together as one. I don't know how that happens. I don't know who the dissenters are. I really don't give a shit. All I care about is the 11 guys that suit up and the 3 guys coming off the bench. Whoever those guys are, I want them going full-fledged Tanganga, sack out. That's what I want.
The silver lining is no more midweek games, basically, right? There'll be like a makeup game, I think, against Southampton. But really, Spurs are going to have a lot more time in between. And if that was truly a hindrance, like it's been talked about, then, because the schedule was like pretty outrageous. So maybe that will help as well. But gosh, Bucks, it just feels like this is like all too little too late talk bullshit. Like this isn't going out in the round of 16 in Champions League.
But Shakes, that's what you're missing, I think. I don't know if your expectations are just so diluted that it's become this expectation that we have to win Europa. The problem is that speech doesn't come until we only have one open channel to the Champions League. Prior to that, we had 2 open channels, one of which required winning 1 match and then 5 more. So 6 total matches. 6 total matches. So when that door closes, you need to make a speech like that, because it's just, we got to go in there, man.
I get it, man. I get it. Just let me lick my wounds, okay? Worst European night in Spurs history, basically.
Shakes, if I was in that room, man, I'd make sure your wounds were getting licked.
Would you pull a deli to throw the water bottle around?
I'm gonna lick
like how you want
Shakes.
The barbecue at the end, like in All or Nothing, like when they have that crappy team barbecue and give Jan this like cheap watch. Hopefully, it's a little better than that.
That was a shitty watch.
It was like, what were they doing there?
Well, you would be the one to say it's a shitty watch. You really would. Go check on your third pool. You're probably flooding it right now. You son
probably
of a bitch.
Yeah. Overflowing toilet. Just clog shit. That was Spurs' performance.
We need the balance. We do need the balance. You need me, who's always going to be the guy that, regardless of all the flaws,
you're picking Spurs 4-1. I get it.
I might just fucking pick Spurs 4-1, Shakes. Let's get into our questions here. We got great friend of the pod, Big White Hart Lane here. We saw Gio, Hoj, and Ndombele in the midfield against Villa. We really need that to work well. What was your view on their performance as a trio? I thought Hoj and Tanguy grew into the game. Gio, to me, is not quite there with his fitness yet. Shout out to Joe Rowe. Solid game from him. We don't need to get into Joe Rowe. But hit me up with Hoj, Tanguy, and Lo Celso trio, the thing you've been begging for, Shakes.
I know I've been begging for it. It didn't look good this time around, Bucks. Lo Celso still needs to grow into some fitness, gameplay, all that good stuff. Where I thought Lo Celso actually was looking pretty good was in the extra time and maybe some of the second half against Dinamo Zagreb, because he has a different type of vision. He was playing on the right side then too. and he was looking cross to Reggie. Like he helped set up that one attempt by Bale by getting it all the way over to Reggie and then Reggie to Bale. And he's got different types of vision. He's got, I think, just an added kind of toughness mentality. You know, like back when he was playing as a holding midfield for Spurs last year, he seemed just kind of like a lot meaner out there, and then also like a lot more of a pest. And I think Spurs need more of that, similar to how Lucas is doing well that way. And you're not really getting that from Ndombele. He's more finesse. Højbjerg is always going to be tough. So if there can be a world where you have Lo Celso coming back more to help out with Ndombele and Højbjerg, and then he grows into his old self, which was probably peak Lo Celso from, what was it, like February of last year, basically before everything shut down, and then he got injured. I mean, that's still got to be Spurs' best lineup once he gets into his peak form, I would say. So I'm holding out hope with it. I'm interested to see if Jose likes the 4-4-2 more with Lo Celso on the right, because he does have the vision to go kind of across the park. He does have the ability to kind of pinch up, but then also press back. But I still think he'd be better in a 4-2-3-1 right above Højbjerg and Ndombele. And
I agree.
And I don't know if it's just couldn't play that way because Vinicius started, Sonny's not playing. Lucas was on the left side, and I know Lucas had been playing more in the middle as like that 10 and coming back more. So maybe that kind of screws things up that way because Spurs were effective that way. But if in a true 4-2-3-1 setting, I mean, just Lo Celso's a better playmaker than Lucas. Sorry. You know, it's just what it is. And also Lo Celso's probably got a better eye for net as well.
I also think you have the element where you could even have Lucas and Gio kind of running interchangeable from the 10 to the right wing.
I'm interested.
I think that could be something.
That. I like that.
That's kind of what Lucas has been doing, and I think Lo Celso kind of sets up well for that on his play style. Yeah, Ian, you nailed it. 4-4-2 opens up some interesting possibilities. I completely agree with you there. Definitely. From my perspective, I thought Hoj, Tanguy didn't play their best games, neither did Gio, but got the job done, got the 2 points. The problem I have with Tanguy right now is there's a whole lot of work that's resulting in a whole lot of nothing right now. I mean, why is it that every single time the ball's at his feet, it seems like there's a minimum of 5-6 touches? I mean, it's just it's getting to the point where I said this earlier in the season when he was, you know, all of us had these big old sparkly eyes watching this guy dazzling on the pitch. And it's like, oh shit, we got the next coming, a Ronaldinho out there. This guy's fantastic. And then what you see now is you see a guy that has worn himself down to the point where that's his style of play, but it results in him getting so drained to where he doesn't have that touch on the final pass. He pulled like a double Iniesta, which was just insane, into a spin move that resulted in a pass to Vin that Vin bungled. I will say Vin bungled that pass. I mean, he does some things that'll awe you every game. We just need more of that final pass. We need him to play a little bit more in rhythm with his quick passing instead of always trying to make it about, hey, how do I get this guy a little bit off kilter to throw it around him? I think that would be a big benefit to the club. And whether or not we see that, I don't know. Tanguy's still very, very young. By no means is this me trying to trash Tanguy, but be a little bit faster with your progressions. That has to happen for this to be successful, especially with a guy like Lo Celso in the game.
Yeah, it's going to come down to like, where do you put Lo Celso? Because he played so many different places last year, and I thought he pretty much excelled, like as a left-sided holding midfield, as a left winger, as a right winger. Comes in here as a right winger, which I think he would start over Bale. I really do. It's just when, you know, Vin's going to be the casualty there, like we talked about earlier. It'll be Sonny, it'll be Lucas, and then I guess it's going to be Lo Celso over Bale. It'll just be that. At least that's how I kind of look at it. I just think you expect Lo Celso, again, he's far more tenacious, far more of a pest, far more pressing, and used to play a holding midfield. Like it's, you know, somewhere in him, in his DNA, where he can actually play defensive ball. So he'll just come back way more than Bale ever would.
Well, he's a shit house. That's what he likes doing. He wants to just crush you. He's kind of like Vin in that manner. You saw Vin crush the one guy with the elbow right in the back and then stood over him like King Kong.
By the way, he scores 5 minutes later.
Yeah, I love that shit.
Coincidence?
Fire him up. I'm a fiery guy, Shakes.
Yeah, you are.
I like that stuff.
You get amped.
I am an amped guy. You should have seen me on the dance floor in Key West. My God. All right, we got a next one here from Zach Angelos. Lucas, man of the match. Great result today. Tanguy's all around. Who deserves another look or shot at playing out of these players? I'm going to say 2 out of these. Steve, GLC, Sissoko, Winks. I think that's easy. I think it's Steve and GLC.
It is. And Ndombele and Højbjerg are far ahead of, for sure, they're far ahead of Sissoko. I get the Sissoko.
Whoa, I would say Sissoko over Winks at this point, buddy.
See, I disagree.
Oh, well.
So if you're starting, if Ndombele can't start, I think Winks gets the start with Højbjerg. However, if Ndombele is starting and then needs to get it taken out in like the 75th minute and Spurs are up, I get Sissoko coming in because he's just more defensive. Sissoko at this point is a defensive midfield specialist Bucks,
yeah,
and that's it. So I mean, you saw Højbjerg play with Winks and the team not look bad. Like when they started.
I'm going to draw a basketball, an NBA comparison. Chris Anderson for the Miami Heat. Defensive specialist. Moussa Sissoko is the Birdman, Chris Anderson.
He's the hog, not the bird.
Tell me I'm wrong.
Birdman.
Tell me I'm wrong.
I think there's better defensive specialists in the NBA.
What I'm saying is, I mean,
he's like Beverly.
I'm talking about like super, like truly, look, dude, those are some burly, hot dudes out there. One of which is covered in tattoos. The other of which is covered in love and appreciation for his teammates. I'll let you decipher who those 2 are. But it's Birdman, Chris Anderson. If you had that little, what do you do? Yeah. Parallels.
I don't know
Shakes. Yeah, it's like the double.
I'm not
double colons.
You know me, I'm from Detroit, man. Detroit Pistons. Bad boys.
Shakes, you don't even watch the Pistons. When's the last time you watched a Pistons game? Where's Andre Drummond? Where's Andre Drummond these days?
Not on the team.
Yeah, I know.
On the Cleveland Cavs.
Yeah.
You could say, like, if you gave me enough drinks in me, Bucks, you could probably sell me on Winks over Steve, but it's still Lo Celso 1, and then I think Steve, then Winks.
Okay. I'm gonna obviously put my boy Hog up there. I'm gonna go Lo Celso. I'm gonna go Steve. I'm gonna go Hog. I'm gonna go Winks. All right, Nate Keller, who I believe was joining us earlier. Hope you're still with us. Is it time to give Roden minutes? Dyer and Sanchez are clearly a death sentence that we've seen all throughout this season, especially Thursday. Should we just start playing the kids that will run through brick walls for us? We talked about this earlier. I think you were with us. Yeah, I'm at that point, but I'm at that point now for a month now where I've just been saying, kids. I don't.
That's it. Bucks love the kids. That's all it is.
Shout out to Trick Daddy. Buck love the kids. I say keep putting them out there. I want heart and hustle. I want what Hugo wants, which is people who give a shit. Guys that Jose wants out there. Folks that really care about that badge, because they're not out there just playing for themselves. They need to be playing for that club. They need to be playing for their captain. They need to be playing mostly for Harry Kane at this point. It's like, just get this guy something. Get him another chance at European glory. Fight like hell for that man, because as much as I hate to say it, is there a chance we could lose him? Probably not, but damn, what if that happened? All right, so we got another question here. Alex Asher, was Villa a statement that the core players are still Jose in? Lloris interview is fascinating on many levels. Impressive fight after 120 minutes away on Thursday. I think a lot of fans expected the team to mentally fold similarly to the 3-0 loss to Brighton that ended Poch.
Yeah, I mean, you can draw these parallels where the team still is buying in. And we would do those buy-in checks for Jose. We did them last year. We did them some this year. And he still, like I said, put in a lineup that, although it had all these changes, Bucks, you still saw Dave, still saw Ndombele. Højbjerg couldn't play in the Dynamo game because of the yellow card accumulation thing. Reggie was out there. Lucas and Kane were out there. Those are all players that have been meaningful, for Jose's run in all these competitions. And they still put out this effort where Spurs didn't look like world beaters out there, but they went on the road and won 2-0. So it was still an impressive win, even if it wasn't a flashy win or like this comprehensive performance, or, any idiot saying Spurs are back after that. They didn't really watch it. They weren't the greatest for the first 20 minutes, but grew into the game, played sound defensive ball. It helped that they got Lo Celso back. It helped that Tanganga was out there on right back because he was making less mistakes, and they took care of business. So I do believe that. Yes, I do think that the team is still bought in on Team Jose, or at the very least, the lineup that we saw out there did.
I'm on the same page there. I think from what we saw, it was a disastrous week. And if we had lost to, let's say, Man U instead of Arsenal, would we have still felt as just paralyzed as we all did after that Thursday match? Chances are probably not, right? We got Man U coming up after Newcastle. You know, the way they're playing, it's definitely going to be a fight. It's going to take a much better performance than anything we've seen recently from Spurs. But I think that Hugo said it in the post-match interview with Zagreb. He said, you know, it's an accumulation, because he was asked what stung more, Arsenal or this. He goes, I mean, honestly, it's an accumulation. I think that was him talking to the fans right there. That's what that was. That was, I mean, the team is just as pointed as we are, but holy shit, it just felt like, how could we get lower? Because we lose to Arsenal in a shit performance and we come out to Zagreb. Yeah, was I expecting us to fold like a lawn chair a little bit? Absolutely. I mean, I think any of us, anybody, any Spurs fan in any, I think, era over the last 20, 30 years would say, yeah, we come out of that, we're not going to be looking good. To get a clean sheet with the rotations at the defensive end that we had, I think it's a good testament. Sure, Villa, as Ian mentions here in our mentions, that's a great statement, Buck. Ian mentions in our comments. Hey, get me in my mentions. Jack Grealish being out helped a ton, but you know, it boils down to getting it done, and getting it done with 2-0 is always something to take away with some positivity. We'll get to what we're getting into next week, but we have 3 more questions quickly here, Shakes, as we got to wrap. I got to get to another podcast, believe it or not.
You're working, man, Bucks.
Dude, I back at work today, and I'm working until
who do you midnight. Like podcasting more with, me or whoever you're going with next? You can be honest.
I can't. You don't put me on the spot. Of course, it's you.
Fuck yeah. Who is it that you're podding with?
You're my boy, Blue.
Who is it you're about to pod with?
Fantasy Focus. So we're doing football stuff, American football stuff. Yeah. It's Levy and not Daniel. I wish it was an interview with Daniel Levy. I actually talked to a guy who talked to Joe Lewis, believe it or not, just yesterday.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I was like, hey, dog, let me get that number. I'd love to get you on with
Danny. That guy? Joe Lewis is like 85 years old or something, right?
Dude, he was on his yacht. It was a whole wild story. But
no, man, I'm sure it was
anyways,
crazy.
Yeah. It was, I mean, yeah, you can
imagine.
imagine.
All right, we'll save that for story time.
Yeah. All right. So Ben Wybrow. Vinicius can't be ignored. Seems like he had massive work rate. Play Vinny up front, Kane and Lucas basically in free rolls. Everyone up front is working for the team. I'm sick of seeing Bale watch opposition players instead of chasing them. Vinny to start over Bale for the rest of season. Shakes, your thoughts.
So touched on this a little bit with the reinstallment of Lo Celso, and as long as he gets back to fitness, I think he gets that nod on the right side over Vin. Vin plays more of a secondary striker role, and especially if he's just going to be up there with Kane, it's kind of like 2 holdings, 2 of the same, you know, as far as like what you're asking from them, like hold up play. I just don't think from Vin you would get the same fundamental and tenacity and all that good shit from Lo Celso. So disagree. I do like the shakeup idea of this question. You know, like I'm not sick of Bale or anything like that. I don't want to make it seem like I think I'm out on Bale. It's just if the team isn't good enough to just have these luxury players that can then go up and score, if they're playing against a team that's like, you know, 10th or better in the table, then unfortunately it's just, we're not, you don't make it seem like you're not good enough for Bale or anything like that. It's just, you can't just have like this luxury player, Bucks, that only comes in to score and do this, that, and the other when you can't feed him the ball. So I just think you need to look for a player that's a little bit more well-rounded, and I think that's what you get out of Lo Celso, whereas Vin is still more of like striker mentality. You're just not going to get the defensive prowess that maybe Lo Celso would have.
I'm going to step in there. I thought Vin and Kane.
Oh, no, Vin can be a brick house or shit house, excuse me. Brick house too.
No, in the box too. I thought Vin was impressive in the box defending.
Oh,
I thought he looked okay. I thought both him and Kane were there. So
you don't think he's just more technically sound than Lo Celso, and you don't think he probably comes back and treks the amount that Lo Celso would, right?
No,
I just
no, I
because
don't.
it's just like the place for Vin. If you're playing a 4-4-2, I think it's the same lineup that we're looking at with Mora, Højbjerg, and Domble Lo Celso, and just the two up top are Son and Kane. I think that's how you're doing it. If you're going to stick with a 4-4-2, if you want to talk me into a 4-2-3-1 with Lo Celso more in the middle, whatever. But it's just if we're going 4-4-2 right now, that's the change.
Okay. So I think that's a tactic flip, but considering our run of games, I like that we can keep teams thinking about whether or not we roll out that lineup. So at the very least, it's a mentality shift in terms of what you have to prepare for as an opposition. So anything that we can get teams a little bit off center, a little off balance in terms of their preparation, I think it's a benefit. The work rate is absolutely there, Ben. I agree with you 100%. That's a guy that I think really busts his ass every time he's on the pitch.
No, he earned his start. It's just,
most certainly did.
How does it fit with Sonny getting back?
It's true. It really doesn't, but when are we going to see Sonny again? That's the only question I have. So we have two more here from Brian Lozen. The Bale comment actually flows well in. What did you think of Bale's comments in that interview he had wearing his Wales training gear?
So I thought of it this way. Spurs supporters should look back at this as like the team sold Bale at his absolute height, like when you go back to when he was transferred out to Real, and then cashed in on that. They had money to spend, kind of catapulted them into this. You're not going to say like those are the dollars that turn into all of these players. There were some good players that came out of it. I think notably it was Eriksen and Lamela, right? But anyway, Spurs kind of cashed out on Bale. And Bale wasn't there long enough to maybe start pissing people off with antics or things that he would say. So I kind of look at it that way. Spurs got out, made money off that transaction. Bale got to come back. It would have been a billion times more fun if there were supporters on the ground, right? So like if there were fans in the stands able to like cheer on Bale when he scored his first goal back or went on that run of a month ago, that would have been fantastic. It would have been cool. It's just there's a reason that he's kind of out of favor with Real Madrid. There's a reason why he's just kind of playing out his contract and he's holding up the stupid signs that say like,
Zinedine Zidane.
And then Real Madrid in that order. Remember he did that. Like,
that's a great flag.
So it's just like don't just suddenly think he just changes for you, Tottenham. It's just what it is. That's who he is. So
I also think part of it is just his agent feeding him lines. Like, hey, if you're asked about this,
maybe that's it. It's just I don't know. I wasn't surprised. Like, were you? Like, recently, like, oh man, he's heading back, doesn't give a shit. Like, no one should act surprised. And I just kind of look at it like Spurs handled the Bale situation the best, years ago.
Yeah, it's true.
That's just the way I look at it. Like they got, before like this guy. I mean, I'm not saying he would have just suddenly lapsed in play or just become an asshole, but it's just it all worked out.
Let's not call him an asshole. I mean,
he's not. I mean, it's just you want him to think a little bit.
Asshole antics. Antics.
That's what I meant. That's what I meant. I said act like. Not
I'm pretty.
Man.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm pretty demonstrative myself at times, as you know, so I can understand the movements there. But I feel like it's one of those things where I wasn't upset about it. Like when Everton Jordan, our buddy in our group chat, when he messaged, what do you think of these comments by Bale? I just said, Bale gonna bail. He's just gonna be himself, and that's who he is.
Would you call him in the group chat?
I didn't call him any words.
I thought you called him a brat. No?
Oh, he could be a brat.
Yeah, that made sense. Like spoiled brat type of.
If there's any parallel that I have personally to Gareth Bale, it's at 2:00 out at a Key West bar trying to figure out how to get home and possibly get a hot dog on the way. I'm a brat at that point. So I feel like there's a good comparison. Look,
Bale went on this cool run where Spurs won some games and he was looking great. I'm hoping that he could still contribute to the team. And he's a veteran out there, and this will be his time, and he's going to go. And like I said, it would have been awesome if there were fans out there to watch this happen. And it's just I don't know what it was expected to be. Like he's going to say, no, I'm not fucking leaving, and they just pulls the Wolf of Wall Street and just stays with Spurs and just dominates here on out.
Can you imagine the scenes if he just drops the mic? I'm not fucking leaving.
I'm not fucking leaving.
That would be the greatest feeling in the world. But it would also kind of be depressing because he doesn't.
But he'd be then playing as a substitute behind Lo Celso. That's fact of the matter.
I think he'll be an effective sub. throughout the
No, me
rest of
too.
the season.
That's fine. And I want him to be. I think him off the bench, I still think maybe he was the guy that needed to get into the game shape and the flow by starting. But if he's now at this full fitness or whatever and looks good for Wales, yeah, come off the bench now for 30 minutes.
I mean, Wales spurs golf at this point because he can't play golf.
Can't play golf in the winter.
Yeah. So you're good to go. All right. We will close this episode with the last question here. I like this one from Brian Lozen. Thank you for the questions as always, sir. Odds we actually have a new manager next year. Daniel Shakes.
I'm going to go 4-1. So I obviously think it's less likely. I kind of talked about that a little bit earlier, where I just think more shit would have to go wrong in order for Levy to justify it. He looks more to justify keeping Jose than he does to let him leave. So it would have to be a lot of stuff he'd have to find wrong, or even goes down the tube or shitter further in order for him to then cut the ties. I mean, a lot has been said about the money part of it too, and that's a big deal of it. It's apparently a ridiculous buyout. He's there till 2023. Don't believe he'll be there till 2023, Bucks, but I think he will be there next year.
I agree. I think Jose's here, and I think we need to get the proper players out to start with. We need to capitalize on the different players that we have some value with. And I think it boils down to bringing in 2 to 3 very core players that will contribute. I think it starts with central back pairing. I think center backs have to be kind of the focus here. I think we need another defensive midfielder like Pierre-Emile Højbjerg. I think really it boils down to whether or not we can figure out how to really separate ourselves at the positions that we seem so lacking at currently.
So the point you just made, and I go back and forth on this, so I want your thoughts. When you say you want Jose to get in some of the players he wants, do you trust him to bring in the players he wants? Because I go back and forth where I don't believe I trust Jose in picking the right center back duo right now. Like he's not giving Rodon a full go until maybe just now. If we see him start again in an EPL match, he doesn't seem to give Tanganga benefit of the doubt at right back, to the point where even he wanted to bring in Doherty. And then Ndombele and him were on the doghouse, and then finally he kind of saw that thing through with him. With that said, though, he did want to bring in Højbjerg, and he did want to bring in Reggie, unless like he had to be convinced, and I'm not aware of that story. But it's like there are some hits for Jose, but at the same time, I feel like the development side like severely lacks. So I don't know if I want to, this goes back to why I am Jose out, is like I just don't want like Diego Costa coming in or just like all these old guys like trying to be shepherded through where Jose is just gonna like then bury Skip or bury Tanganga like out there. So that's the stuff I worry about long term with Jose. Okay,
that's fair. I do think right back is another area of concern, but right. If Tanganga plays out these 10 matches, starts 7 of them, and looks really good in all of those, then maybe that's a building block for the future.
So it's like if last year happens again, maybe he'll take notice.
I like how top 10 and you are top 10 1987 and Shakes are on the exact same page before Shakes even said it.
Yeah, 35-year-old veterans.
35-year-old veterans at CB.
It's so fucking true. Like the combined age of Jose's back four is 148 years old. Yeah, it'll be something like that.
They come out in walkers and just chuck them off to the side, limp around the pitch for a little bit. Yeah, I think Jose's here for one more season. I think the buyout's just too strong. I know there's some rumors floating out there that, Jose's already agreed in principle to bow his way out somehow. I don't believe that to be true. I think, if anything, Jose still has a cup shot. He has a top 4 shot. And that leads us into our wrapping up here, Shake. So next week, or actually, we'll probably do it later this week. It's what? Is it Tuesday or is it Monday? I don't know, Shakes. I've been on island time.
Bucks, I want to really get a Key West report later. Next podcast.
No, we can
It sounds like you danced a little. You fished a little.
We danced.
You ate a good amount. You might have partaked in a few libations.
Couple.
When was your life at any point in danger?
No, that's the thing here. So
okay.
I turned into a different person. So fishing days, those are chill days. And then once I get on the island, once I get to Key West, I turn into this different person. I'm a pretty I don't know, I'm a joyous guy when I'm around people, even people I
Yeah.
don't know. Like I'm a very boisterous type of fun. I'm able to interact with anybody. I do this thing at Dante's pool party, which is a very subdued Dante's pool party. So like instead of it being packed with people in the pool, it was just like people scattered about the pool, but a few people in. It's this massive pool. I started doing this thing like 4 years ago. We go down once a year where I act as if Dante's is paying me to be their lifeguard. So I stand in the middle of the pool with a beer. I just fold my arms shirtless in the middle of the pool and just gaze around the edges of it for like minutes on end. And then all of a sudden people start coming up. They're just like, what the hell are you doing, man? I'm like, yeah, I'm making sure everybody's safe in this pool, man. I'm looking out for you. Miss, please behave yourself in this pool. And all of a sudden, it's just the lifeguard is the life of the party. People want to drink with the Dante's unofficial lifeguard, but I convince everybody that I'm the official lifeguard. So all of a sudden, they want to be in with the lifeguard. Girls are just handing me shots. It's a wild time down there, Shakes.
So they just think you're the lifeguard.
Yes. Well, I convince them that I'm the lifeguard. They can see through it, but they also appreciate the joke. Unlike you, you'd be the asshole that would be like, you're not the fucking lifeguard.
Yeah. Then I'd pour my beer in your head and you'd punch me in the face. I think that's how we met.
Yeah. No. It's pretty similar to the story of that one time.
Why aren't people in the pool? Why aren't people in the pool?
No, there's a few people in the pool just because of COVID regulations. Like it's a bit different, but
it definitely transfers through chlorinated water. I've read that.
I mean, I'll be honest, getting old in my 30s now, I'm still hungover, and it's been 56 hours since I got back.
Yeah, what was that drive back like? That was probably a 6-hour drive from hell?
Yeah, terrible. Like you don't even understand, man. Travel issues, like the whole thing was terrible. But overall, getting old is never a great thing. But I was worried that I couldn't turn on my Key West charm with my old age and a year off from partying until 3 a.m. No, man, it's still all there. It's still, believe me, it's all there. I have a huge bruise. It's the size of a baseball right on my gut. No clue. So maybe I did get punched in my gut, but it's probably some hot babe.
Getting old's a good thing if you're, a mid-30s center back and Jose's got his eyes on you.
Look, Jose, I'm gonna tweet at you a picture of my bruised gut and say this is what I'll put on the line for you at center back. All right, folks. Well, we beat Villa. Our next episode, we'll be previewing the league. Okay, where we look in the league. We'll do this a little bit later this week. Tentative on the scheduling there, Shakes, but we'll get there.
Will we have a special guest?
We can have a special guest. We can. Maybe we got some feelers.
Have we
out
lit
there.
the FA Cup heel to talking to anyone from Everton?
Possibly,
I'm not sure.
Possibly.
I'm not
sure.
I don't
know. Or maybe even a brand new contributor to this show. Nobody knows. But I got list upon list. I crumpled one list up, but I have all the theoretical breakdowns of how this league is going to shake out. We're going to talk about all of them. It should be a very fantastic podcast. Thank you all for joining us here on YouTube. You can follow us on Twitter at TTPodCoys. We do all of our shows now live on YouTube. We had a great audience this entire time. Appreciate all the input from all of you. You guys are the best. All the Tanganga jokes, the Tangangis, the Tangies, the love, the support. Somebody called me Obi-Wan. I think it was Ian Ferguson. I am Obi-Wan. I want to pump positivity, Jedi spirit, Jedi mind tricks, get everybody flowing in the right direction. Danny Shake, sign the people off.
You got me pumped up too, Bucks. I still believe in. Come on, you Spurs.
That was the most beautiful one you've ever done. You hit every note. Coys, get it done.
Voice
have a rest.
$2,000 a week.
Have a rest. Just have a rest.